The silver ship appeared in the sky on a Tuesday morning. It hovered above New York City, causing traffic to stop and people to point upward in awe. No one panicked, though. After decades of sci-fi movies, the sight of a massive alien vessel seemed almost expected. Jack Miller watched the news from his construction site in Montana. The foreman had stopped all work when the breaking news alert came through. Now 20 workers stood around a small TV, watching history unfold. "About time they showed up," said Jack, taking a swig from his water bottle. At 45, Jack had seen enough of life to be hard to impress. His weathered face and calloused hands spoke of years climbing steel beams and working outdoors. "Always figured we weren't alone." The news anchor's voice trembled with excitement as she reported that similar ships had appeared over major cities worldwide. The president would address the nation in 1 hour. Military jets circled the vessels, but kept their distance. 3 days later, Jack found himself in Washington, D.C. It was pure luck, really. His construction company had been contracted for some rush renovations to accommodate the alien visitors at a government building. He never expected to be anywhere near the aliens themselves. Kate Wilson paced nervously in the hallway outside the meeting room. As NASA's leading astrobiologist, she had been called in as part of the scientific delegation. With her neat brown hair pulled back and her blue suit freshly pressed, she looked every bit the professional. Inside, she felt like a child on the first day of school. "Dr. Wilson?" A man in a dark suit approached her. "They're ready for your team now." Kate nodded and gathered her colleagues. Among them were physicists, linguists, and other scientists pulled from their normal lives to meet actual aliens. As they entered the large conference room, Kate's breath caught in her throat. The aliens stood on the far side of the room. There were 5 of them, tall and slender with bluish-gray skin that seemed to shimmer under the lights. Their eyes were large and dark, their fingers long and delicate. They wore what appeared to be uniforms in metallic fabric. "Welcome, representatives of Earth," said the tallest alien in perfect English. "I am High Commander Zextral of the Galactic Consortium." The voice had a strange musical quality to it, and Kate realized the alien was using some kind of translation device. The scientists exchanged glances, amazed at the technology. "Thank you for accepting our invitation to talk," replied the Secretary of State. "We have many questions." "As do we," said Zextral. "We have observed your world for some time. Your species progress is unusual." Over the next few hours, the aliens explained their coalition of 27 spacefaring species. They had existed in harmony for thousands of years, exploring and trading across hundreds of star systems. "Why have you decided to contact us now?" asked Kate when given the opportunity to speak. Zextral's large eyes blinked slowly. "Your technological advancement has reached a critical threshold. In 200 years, you have gone from horse-drawn vehicles to space exploration. This pace concerns us." Officer Leah Peterson stood quietly by the wall observing. As a Space Force officer assigned to security, she wasn't supposed to participate, just watch. But she didn't like the alien's tone. "Concerns you how?" asked the Secretary of Defense. "Rapid development without proper cultural maturity can lead to problems," said another alien, introducing itself as Science Director Morelsa. "We wish to guide your entry into the galactic community." Jack Miller shouldn't have been in the room at all. He was supposed to be measuring the adjoining chamber for renovations. But when he heard voices through the partially open door, curiosity got the better of him. He peered through the crack and saw the aliens. "No way," he whispered to his coworker Frank. "Gotta see this." A week later, a reception was held to formalize relations between Earth and the consortium. By a stroke of luck, or fate, Jack's crew had been kept on for additional work. The security team was short-staffed, so Jack and a few others were asked to help with setup, and then stay as extra hands. "Just stand by the wall and look official," the head of security told them. "And don't talk to the aliens." Jack stood uncomfortably, in his rented suit, watching diplomats and scientists mingle with the alien delegation. More aliens had arrived, representing different species from the consortium. Some had scales, others fur, but all moved with the same elegant precision. Kate Wilson moved through the crowd, taking mental notes on each alien species. As she passed Jack, she smiled politely, not recognizing him as someone who didn't belong. "They're something, aren't they?" Jack said. "Amazing," Kate agreed. 27 different evolutionary paths all reaching the same point of cooperation. It's a biologist's dream. High Commander Zextral approached them, causing Kate to straighten her posture. "Dr. Wilson, I trust you find our diversity interesting," said the alien. "Fascinating," Kate replied. "I'm curious about your physical capabilities compared to humans." The alien made a gesture that might have been a smile. "Our species is significantly stronger and more agile than humans. We can process information 3 times faster than your brains. Our reflexes are superior in every way." Jack frowned. He didn't like the way the alien spoke, as if humans were somehow lesser beings. "Superior, huh?" Jack said, ignoring Kate's warning glance. "I don't know about that. Humans are pretty capable." "Your species has potential," Zextral said, "but lacks discipline. Your unpredictability is concerning." Another alien joined them, this one with greenish scales. "Humans rely too much on luck and what you call winging it. Proper civilization requires planning and order." Jack's frown deepened. He'd spent his life solving problems on construction sites where theory and planning often failed in the face of reality. Sometimes you just had to try something and see if it worked. "See that chandelier up there?" Jack pointed to the ornate fixture hanging from the high ceiling. "Bet I could climb up there and back down without any equipment faster than you could with all your superior abilities." Kate looked horrified. "Mr. Miller, that's not appropriate." But Jack was irritated now. The aliens had been subtly condescending all week. He handed his glass to Frank, who stood nearby. "Hold my beer," Jack said. The aliens exchanged glances, confused by the phrase. Before anyone could stop him, Jack moved to the wall where decorative molding created natural handholds. With surprising speed and agility, he began to climb. People gasped and pointed upward. Security moved toward the wall but seemed unsure how to stop him. Jack moved like a man who had spent decades climbing steel frameworks, finding invisible handholds and testing each grip before trusting his weight to it. In less than 2 minutes, he touched the chandelier and began his descent. When his feet hit the floor, scattered applause broke out from the humans in the room. The aliens stared in silence. Zextral's large eyes had widened even further. "How did you calculate the safe path so quickly?" asked the scaled alien. Jack shrugged. "Didn't calculate anything, just climbed." "But the risk assessment, the strength-to-weight equations?" "Sometimes you just gotta go for it," Jack said, taking his drink back from Frank. Security finally arrived, escorting Jack from the room despite his protest that he was just proving a point. As he left, he noticed the aliens huddled together, speaking rapidly in their own language. They kept looking at him with what seemed like concern. What Jack didn't know was that he had just inadvertently created a diplomatic incident. In their huddle, the aliens were discussing a terrifying new discovery. Humans sometimes bypassed all logical processes and just acted, especially after the ritual phrase, "Hold my beer." And somehow, impossibly, it often worked. Jack Miller became something of a celebrity after the chandelier incident. The video, captured by several phones, spread across the internet within hours. Most people thought it was funny, a regular construction worker showing off to aliens. Jack didn't see it that way. "I wasn't trying to be famous," he told Frank as they worked on the hotel renovations the next day. "Those aliens just rubbed me the wrong way, acting like we're some kind of primitive species they need to babysit." Frank laughed. "Well, you sure showed them. My kid says you're trending on all the social media sites." Jack shook his head and returned to his work. He didn't notice the small drone hovering near the ceiling, watching his every move. At the temporary alien embassy across town, Ambassador Krelnox reviewed the footage of Jack's climb. The ambassador had green-tinted skin and 4 eyes that blinked in sequence rather than together. Unlike Commander Zextral, Krelnox specialized in understanding new cultures. "Play it again," Krelnox said to the computer. "Focus on the moments before the human begins climbing. The footage zoomed in on Jack handing his drink to Frank. "Hold my beer," Jack's voice said clearly through the speakers. "Freeze," commanded Krellnox. "This phrase appears important. Search all human media for this sequence of words." The computer hummed softly. "Search complete. Phrase appears in approximately 2.7 million videos and text references. Display sample. Videos. The screen filled with clips. Humans jumping off roofs into pools, riding shopping carts down hills, attempting dangerous tricks on bikes, and countless other risky behaviors, all preceded by someone saying, 'Hold my beer.'" Krellnox's four eyes widened. "Is this some kind of ritual phrase that enhances physical capabilities?" The computer couldn't answer that question, but Dr. Alan Green might have been able to, had the aliens consulted him. As one of Earth's few xenopsychologists, Alan had been studying the aliens' reactions to humanity. "They're clearly disturbed by something," Alan told his colleague in the cafeteria of the International Science Center. "Have you noticed how they flinch when anyone acts spontaneously? When that waiter dropped a tray yesterday, I thought the Rigelian delegate would jump out of his scales." His colleague nodded. "They're very methodical. Everything planned and calculated." "Exactly. I think our unpredictability scares them more than our technology." Neither man knew how right they were. Across the globe, aliens were documenting every instance of the phrase "hold my beer" they encountered. A special classification system emerged: Type 1 for minor stunts, Type 5 for potentially lethal activities. Jack's chandelier climb had been classified as Type 3, significant risk, with minimal calculation. 2 weeks after the incident, Jack received a strange invitation. The alien embassy requested his presence for a cultural exchange discussion. He almost threw it away, but curiosity won out. The embassy occupied a modern glass building downtown. Jack felt out of place in his clean jeans and button-up shirt as he entered the sleek lobby. "Mr. Miller," greeted a human assistant. "Thank you for coming. Ambassador Krellnox is eager to meet you." Jack was led to a comfortable room with a view of the city. Ambassador Krellnox waited inside, along with 2 other aliens and Kate Wilson, the scientist from the reception. "Mr. Miller," Krellnox said, extending a 3-fingered hand, "I appreciate your willingness to assist us." Jack shook the cool, smooth hand awkwardly. "Not sure how I can help, but I'm here." "We are studying human idioms," explained the ambassador, "particularly the phrase you used before your impressive climb." Jack looked confused. "You mean, 'hold my beer'?" All 3 aliens seemed to tense. Slightly. One of them made a note on a tablet. "Yes," said Krellnox. "We notice this phrase often precedes unusual human achievements. Can you explain its significance?" Kate Wilson stepped in. "It's just a saying, Ambassador. It doesn't have any special meaning. Yet it appears in thousands of instances before humans attempt dangerous or improbable actions," countered Krellnox. "And the success rate of these attempts exceeds statistical probability." Jack laughed. "It's just something you say when you're about to do something stupid or show off, like, 'Watch this.'" The aliens exchanged glances. Kate gave Jack a cautioning look. "Perhaps a demonstration would help," suggested Krellnox. Before Jack could answer, a loud alert sounded from one of the aliens' devices. The creature checked it, eyes widening. "Another occurrence," it said to Krellnox. "Type 4, location, San Francisco." Meanwhile, in San Francisco, Susan Lopez had no idea she was causing an interstellar incident. As a social media influencer with 3 million followers, Susan was always looking for the next viral trend. When she saw Jack Miller's chandelier climb, she had an idea. "Hey guys," she said to her phone camera while standing at the Golden Gate Bridge Visitor Center. "Today I'm starting the Hold My Beer for the Aliens challenge." She handed her drink. To her assistant said the phrase, and proceeded to walk across a narrow safety rail while blindfolded, something she'd practiced secretly for days. Her video went viral instantly. Within hours, thousands of people were posting their own Hold My Beer for the Aliens videos. Most were harmless tricks, but some were genuinely dangerous. Back in Washington, the alien embassy was tracking each new video with growing alarm. The phenomenon is spreading, reported an analyst to Commander Zextral, who had joined the meeting with Jack. Humans worldwide are now deliberately invoking the phrase. Jack and Kate exchanged worried glances. It's just a social media trend, Kate explained. It will pass in a few days. But the aliens didn't seem convinced. Commander Zextral studied Jack with its large eyes. We have observed that when humans use this phrase, they often accomplish tasks our models predict as impossible, said Zextral. Your species routinely defies probability calculations. That's just human ingenuity, Kate said. Or perhaps something more, replied Zextral cryptically. As Jack left the embassy that evening, he noticed he was being followed. A black car stayed 3 vehicles behind his truck all the way back to his hotel. When he pulled into the parking lot, the car drove past slowly. Jack caught a glimpse of a non-human figure in the back seat. The next morning, the president addressed the nation. Standing at a podium with aliens and human officials behind her, President Olivia Warren looked serious. Our visitors have expressed concern about a recent social media trend, she said. While the "Hold My Beer for the Aliens" challenge may seem harmless fun, it has led to several injuries and 1 fatality. I urge all citizens to refrain from dangerous stunts regardless of their purpose. What the president didn't say was that the Galactic Consortium had conveyed a more serious message privately. They were beginning to fear that humans possessed some unknown ability, one triggered by specific words and activated by risk-taking. The aliens had called an emergency session. As Jack watched the news in his hotel room, he had no idea that across the galaxy, 27 species were now discussing the human problem with growing concern. Somewhere in orbit, aboard the main consortium vessel, a new department had been formed with a single purpose: understanding what happened when a human said, "Hold my beer," and whether it represented a threat to galactic security. 3 days after the president's address, Jack Miller found himself in a strange position. He sat in a conference room at the White House, alongside scientists, military officers, and government officials. President Olivia Warren sat at the head of the table looking tired. "Mr. Miller, thank you for coming," she said. "I understand this must be confusing for you." Jack nodded. He felt out of place in his new suit, purchased hastily after the unexpected invitation to Washington. "The aliens have made a formal request," continued the president, "or perhaps I should call it a demand." She nodded to an aide who displayed a document on the large screen. It was titled, "Formal Communication from the Galactic Consortium." Jack read the highlighted section with growing disbelief. "They want us to ban the phrase 'hold my beer'?" he asked. "Can they do that?" Dr. Lisa Martinez, the nation's leading xenolinguist, spoke up. "They believe the phrase triggers some kind of special human ability. They've classified it as a potential threat to galactic security." "That's ridiculous," Jack said. "It's just something people say." "We know that," replied President Warren. "But the consortium has threatened to cut off all contact with Earth if we don't comply. They're willing to place our entire planet under isolation." The room fell silent. After decades of wondering if we were alone in the universe, humanity had finally met its galactic neighbors. Losing that connection would be devastating. "What exactly are they afraid of?" Jack asked. A military officer played a video compilation. It showed humans around the world performing increasingly dangerous stunts after saying, "Hold my beer." Many succeeded against all odds. Their scientists can't explain how humans assess risk so quickly or find solutions that defy their probability models, explained Dr. Martinez. They think it's some kind of special power activated by the phrase. Jack laughed, but no one joined him. "You're serious? They think it's magic words?" "Their species rely heavily on calculation and planning," said Dr. Martinez. "The idea that humans can just improvise successfully terrifies them." Meanwhile, at the alien embassy, Grand Admiral Vexcor was growing impatient. Taller than most of his kind and with distinctive red markings on his gray skin, Vexcor commanded the military forces of the consortium. "These discussions are taking too long. he told Commander Zextrol. The humans continued to use the activation phrase despite warnings. We must give diplomacy a chance, replied Zextrol. Ambassador Krellnox believes we may have misunderstood their culture. Misunderstood? Vexicor's voice rose. I've reviewed 712 documented cases. When humans say this phrase, they routinely achieve the impossible. It's a clear threat. Their conversation was interrupted by an alarm. The environmental system controlling the embassy's atmosphere had begun to malfunction. The air was slowly changing to Earth normal, breathable for humans but potentially harmful to several alien species over prolonged exposure. Paul Johnson was just trying to fix a broken coffee machine when the alarm sounded. As a maintenance worker at the diplomatic building that housed the alien embassy, he had security clearance but rarely interacted with the aliens themselves. What's going on? He asked his supervisor. Environmental system failure, came the reply, but the aliens won't let our technical team into their secure area to fix it. Paul knew the system well. He had helped install it months earlier. They'll need to reset the primary converter, he said. But you need special tools to reach it. The supervisor looked worried. The aliens are starting to get sick. We need to do something now. Paul looked at the schematics on a nearby screen. The converter was behind a sealed panel, accessible only through a narrow maintenance shaft. The proper tools were in a locked storage room across the building. No time for that, Paul said, emptying his coffee cup and handing it to his supervisor. Hold my beer. I have an idea. Inside the embassy, the aliens watched in dismay as their atmospheric readings continued to deteriorate. A human technician had been called, but the proper protocols would take at least 30 minutes to complete. We cannot wait, said one of the alien scientist already showing signs of distress. Suddenly, a vent cover in the ceiling popped open. Paul Johnson's head appeared. Sorry for the intrusion, he called down. I think I can fix your problem. Before anyone could object, Paul had dropped into the room. From his pocket, he pulled out a collection of seemingly random items: a pen, some paper clips, a rubber band, and a plastic card. What is he doing? Asked Commander Zextrol. Grand Admiral Vexcor watched with narrowed eyes. He used the phrase, just before entering the ventilation system. I heard him. Paul moved quickly to the environmental control panel and pried it open with his makeshift tools. The aliens watched as he fashioned an impromptu bypass using the paper clips and rubber band. Within minutes, the atmospheric readings began to stabilize. There you go, Paul said, wiping sweat from his forehead. That should hold until your technical team can make proper repairs. Commander Zextrol approached Paul cautiously. How did you calculate the bypass configuration so quickly? Paul shrugged. Didn't really calculate anything. Just figured it might work. But the statistical probability. Sometimes you just gotta try, Paul interrupted with a smile. As Paul left the embassy, Grand Admiral Vexcor turned to Commander Zextrol. You see, he said urgently. He used the activation phrase, and then performed an engineering feat our specialists said would be impossible without proper tools. Perhaps we need to reconsider our approach, replied Zextrol thoughtfully. The next day, Jack Miller was called into another meeting. This time, Dr. Martinez seemed excited. The aliens have provided us with more details about their concerns, she explained. They've been collecting data on what they call beer-holding events worldwide. She showed Jack a chart with thousands of documented incidents, classified by complexity and success rate. According to their analysis, humans who use this phrase have a 63% higher success rate at improbable tasks than their models predict. Jack frowned. That's not magic. It's just confidence. When someone says, hold my beer, they're usually pretty sure they can do whatever crazy thing they're about to try. Dr. Martinez's eyes lit up. That's it exactly. It's a psychological trigger, not a magical phrase. But convincing the aliens of this proved difficult. Later that afternoon, a formal meeting was held between human representatives and the consortium delegation. President Warren tried to explain the cultural context of the phrase. It's simply an idiom, she said. A figure of speech that signifies confidence or bravado. Grand Admiral Vexcor remained skeptical. Our data suggests otherwise. We believe it activates latent human abilities that could pose a threat. As the debate continued, news arrived from the space station where human and alien scientists were working together. A critical experiment had failed, potentially setting back relations by months. "This is unfortunate timing," said Commander Zexatrol. What none of them knew was that in orbit above Earth, a human engineer named Emma Baker had just uttered those famous words to her colleague, "Hold my beer, I have an idea." And in that moment, the fate of human-alien relations hung in the balance. Emma Baker floated in the space station laboratory, surrounded by complex equipment. At 32, she was one of NASA's youngest and most brilliant engineers. Her dark hair was tied back in a practical ponytail, and her eyes were fixed on the failed experiment. "We've tried everything in the manual," said her colleague, Bill. "The aliens are going to be disappointed." Emma barely heard him. She was staring at the broken device, a prototype designed to merge human and alien technology. The consortium representatives had said it would never work, but Earth scientists had insisted on trying. "The energy conversion ratios don't align," Bill continued. "Their tech just doesn't work with ours." Emma suddenly smiled. "What if we reverse the polarity but only in pulses?" Bill shook his head. "That's not in any of the specifications. The aliens specifically said—" "Their way isn't working," Emma interrupted. She handed her tablet to Bill. "Hold my beer. I'm going to try something." In the White House Situation Room, Commander Zexatrol's communication device chimed. The alien checked the message, and its large eyes widened. "There has been another incident," Zexatrol announced to the room. "On your space station." President Warren sighed. "What happened now?" "One of your engineers used the phrase. She is now attempting a modification to the joint technology project that our scientists have deemed impossible." Jack Miller, still present for the negotiations, couldn't help but smile. "Let me guess, she's making it work anyway?" The alien didn't answer, but its silence was confirmation enough. Grand Admiral Vexcor, who had been quiet during the meeting, suddenly stood. "This situation cannot continue. We have detected 17 uses of the activation phrase in critical facilities today alone. If humans can bypass established scientific principles at will, you represent an unpredictable variable in galactic stability." The room fell silent. The implied threat was clear. "We need time to address this issue properly," said President Warren firmly. "You can't expect us to change cultural behaviors overnight." As they argued, Commander Sam Rodriguez was receiving troubling information at the Joint Space Defense Command Center. Intelligence reports suggested the consortium was quietly moving military vessels into the solar system. "How many ships?" Sam asked his intelligence officer. "At least 15 that we can detect," came the reply. "All positioned just beyond Mars orbit." Sam, a veteran of multiple conflicts on Earth, recognized preparation for a show of force when he saw one. He immediately called the White House. Back in the space station, Emma was elbow-deep in the prototype's components. She'd reconnected wires in patterns that contradicted the alien specifications and added a pulse modulator she'd built from spare parts. "This shouldn't work," Bill said nervously. "The math doesn't add up." "Math is just a language," Emma replied, making a final adjustment. "Sometimes you need to speak with an accent." She connected the final wire. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the device hummed to life, its indicators glowing brightly. Bill stared in disbelief. "How did you know that would work?" Emma shrugged. "I didn't. But I noticed their technology responds to rhythmic energy patterns like ours doesn't. So I figured, why not try a pulse instead of a constant flow?" What Emma didn't know was that her success was being observed not just by the station's cameras, but by an alien military strategist named Clithrak. Hidden aboard one of the consortium vessels, Clithrak had been assigned to study human unpredictability as a potential weapon. "The human female has successfully modified our technology in a way our engineers declared impossible," Calithrak reported to Grand Admiral Vexcor. She used the activation phrase approximately 7 minutes before achieving success. Vexcor's response was immediate. This confirms our fears. Humanity has some capacity we do not understand. Begin preparation for containment protocols. In Washington, Jack Miller had been moved to a secure facility, along with Kate Wilson and several other humans who had direct experience with the aliens. They sat around a conference table with Commander Sam Rodriguez, who had just arrived from the Defense Command Center. The situation is deteriorating, Sam told them bluntly. We have multiple alien vessels moving into position around Earth. Best guess is they're preparing for some kind of show of force. Because of a phrase? Jack asked incredulously. Kate spoke up. It's not really about the phrase anymore. They're afraid of human unpredictability. We solve problems in ways they don't understand. We need to solve one more problem then, said Sam grimly. How to defend Earth against technology, centuries beyond our own. The room fell silent. The task seemed impossible. We need someone who thinks differently, Kate suggested. Someone who can see solutions where others don't. All eyes turned to Jack. I'm just a construction worker, he protested, who climbed an impossible route without planning, Kate reminded him, who showed them what humans can do when we stop overthinking and just act. Jack looked uncomfortable with the attention. I'm not an engineer or scientist. Maybe that's exactly what we need, Sam said thoughtfully. Someone who isn't constrained by what should be impossible. Before Jack could respond, Emma Baker was brought into the room. She had been rushed back to Earth on an emergency shuttle after her success with the prototype. I heard you fix the impossible tech problem, Jack said to her. Emma nodded. Sometimes, you have to ignore the rules and just try what feels right. Sam explained the situation to Emma, the alien fleet, the limited time, the need for some kind of defensive capability. Our best engineers say it would take years to develop countermeasures against their technology, Sam concluded. Emma was quiet for a moment, thinking. Then she smiled and reached for Sam's coffee cup. Hold my beer, she said. I have an idea. Emma quickly sketched a design on her tablet, something that combined the pulse technology she'd discovered on the space station with Earth's existing satellite network. Their ships communicate using quantum entanglement, she explained. But they still need to synchronize those communications. If we can disrupt the synchronization pattern with precisely timed energy pulses, could that really work? Asked Sam. Probably not, Emma admitted. But sometimes impossible things do when you just try them. As Emma refined her idea with the help of military engineers, war strategist Calithrak watched from orbit with growing concern. The human communications they were monitoring indicated a defensive plan was being developed, one that shouldn't be possible with Earth's level of technology. They are using principles we taught them in unexpected ways, Calithrak reported. Combined with methods we do not understand. Grand Admiral Vexcor's response was immediate. Begin the demonstration of force. We can delay no longer. In orbit around Earth, the alien vessels began to power up their systems. Humanity's first, real encounter with alien life now stood on the brink of becoming something much more dangerous. The sky above Earth filled with strange lights as 15 alien vessels moved into formation. People around the world looked up in fear, wondering if this was the end of humanity's brief time among the stars. News channels showed the alien ships, their sleek forms unlike anything humans had built. In a secure underground facility, Emma Baker worked frantically with a team of engineers. Her impossible defense system was taking shape, a network of satellites modified with parts salvaged from the prototype she had fixed on the space station. It's ready, she finally announced, her voice tired but excited. But I have no idea if it will actually work. Commander Sam Rodriguez nodded grimly. It's our only shot. He turned to the communications officer. Contact the president. At the White House, President Warren received the news with mixed feelings. Hope battled with skepticism as she considered their options. The aliens have demanded we surrender all research related to their technology, she told her advisors, and they want restrictions on human innovation moving forward. That's completely unacceptable, said the Secretary of Defense. Agreed. But our other option is to trust an untested defense system based on technology we barely understand. Jack Miller, who had been silent during the meeting, finally spoke up. With all due respect, Madam President, taking chances is what humans do best. The President looked at him for a long moment, then nodded. Activate the defense system. Aboard. The lead alien vessel, Commander Zexatral, was having doubts. The planned show of force seemed excessive. After weeks among humans, Zexatral had developed a grudging respect for them. Is this truly necessary? Zexatral asked Grand Admiral Vexicor. Absolutely, replied the Admiral. These humans represent an unpredictable element in galactic stability. Their ability to bypass established scientific principles with this hold my beer ritual cannot be allowed to spread. Perhaps we misunderstand them, suggested Zexatral. Maybe this phrase is not a ritual, but simply a cultural marker for creative thinking. Before Vexicor could respond, an officer approached. Admiral, we're detecting unusual energy patterns from Earth. They appear to be targeting our communication, synchronization systems. The Admiral's eyes widened. Impossible. They couldn't have developed such technology so quickly. But the evidence was clear on their screens. Somehow the humans had developed a countermeasure that specifically targeted the aliens' most vulnerable systems. On Earth, Emma watched her monitors closely. It's working, she exclaimed. Their ships are having trouble maintaining formation. The pulse disruption is breaking their coordination. The aliens' response was swift. 3 ships broke formation and headed directly toward Earth. They're coming. In fast, reported a military officer. Targeting our satellite network. Emma's face fell. Our system can confuse them, but it can't stop them. They'll destroy the satellites within minutes. The room fell silent. Their one defense was about to fail. Back in Washington, D.C., Maya Perry wiped down the bar counter at the Capitol Brew, a small pub near the diplomatic quarter. At 30, Maya had seen her share of strange customers, but nothing prepared her for the alien who walked through her door. Commander Zexatral had slipped away from the fleet, taking a small shuttle to Earth's surface. After weeks of confusion about humans, Zexatral needed answers before violence erupted. Maya stared as the tall alien approached the bar. A few other customers whispered and pointed, but kept their distance. Can I help you? Maya asked, surprisingly. Calm. I seek understanding, said Zexatral. About humans, about your phrase. Maya blinked. What phrase? Hold my beer. She laughed. That old saying? What about it? Zexatral explained the consortium's fears, how they believed the phrase activated special human abilities that defied probability. Maya listened, then shook her head. It's not magic. It's just something people say when they're about to do something risky or creative. But the success rate is because when someone says, hold my beer, they're usually pretty confident they can do whatever crazy thing they're attempting, Maya explained. It's about believing in yourself enough to try something that might not work. Zexatral's large eyes blinked slowly. Your species embraces uncertainty. Exactly, Maya said. We know we might fail, but we try anyway. Sometimes that leads to breakthroughs your people might miss because you're too focused on what should be possible. As they talked, Maya's phone buzzed with emergency alerts about the alien ships approaching Earth. Your people are about to attack us, aren't they? She asked quietly. Zexatral looked troubled. There is fear among the consortium that humans are too unpredictable. Being unpredictable isn't always bad, Maya said. Sometimes it's exactly what you need when facing an impossible problem. Something shifted in Zexatral's expression. The alien stood suddenly. I must return to my ship. In orbit, the 3 alien vessels were closing in on Earth's satellite network when Commander Zexatral's shuttle reconnected with the main fleet. Without permission, Zexatral opened a communication channel to all consortium ships. This is Commander Zexatral. I order all vessels to halt their approach to Earth immediately. You have no authority to give such orders, responded Grand Admiral Vexicor angrily. I invoke the ancient protocol of cultural preservation, Zexatral said firmly. Humans are not a threat. They are a resource. The approaching ships slowed, confused by the conflicting orders. In the White House Situation Room, everyone stared at the screens in disbelief. "They're stopping," someone whispered. A communication request came through. Commander Zexatral's face appeared on the main screen. "President Warren, I believe we have misunderstood each other," said the alien. "I would like to propose a new type of relationship between our peoples." 3 days later, Jack Miller found himself sitting in a strange conference room. On one side sat humans, President Warren, Kate Wilson, Emma Baker, and others. On the other side sat representatives of the Galactic Consortium, including Commander Zexatral. "Our initial fears were misplaced," Zexatral was saying. "What we saw as a threat is actually humanity's greatest strength, the ability to think beyond established parameters." "You're not worried about us saying 'hold my beer' anymore?" Jack asked with a small smile. "On the contrary," replied Zexatral. "We wish to study this approach, to learn from it." The new agreement was revolutionary. Humans would join the consortium not as junior members but as specialists in creative problem-solving. When conventional methods failed, Earth would provide teams of lateral thinkers to find unexpected solutions. As the meeting concluded, a message arrived. A crisis had emerged in a distant star system. A neutron star was behaving unpredictably, threatening 3 civilizations. "Our scientists have tried everything in our knowledge base," said one of the aliens. "The situation seems hopeless." President Warren smiled and looked at her team. "I think this is a job for humanity." Emma Baker stood up. "I'll start assembling a team." And across the galaxy, a new phrase entered the lexicon of advanced civilizations. When all conventional options failed, when the situation seemed truly impossible, someone would inevitably say, "Perhaps we should call the humans and have them hold our beer."